80% of the ocean is still uncharted at this time, which begs the question of how much mystery may lie beneath the waves. Perhaps this is the reason why the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew and passengers is such a compelling case. The theories of their disappearance vary from those laced with fantasy to those that entail violence. From getting lost in the Bermuda Triangle to having a mutiny among the crew, which of these suspicions is real? Labeled as a ghost ship that was found in the Atlantic, there is still no definitive proof as to why the Mary Celeste was abandoned around the Azores Islands. Welcome to Eventful Insights. In today's video, we'll explore the mystery of the Mary Celeste. But before we get into it, do you have any theories as to why this ship was found abandoned and why a lot of people are intrigued by its case? Let us know in the comments below. The Brigantine Mary Celeste embarked on a voyage from New York Harbor to Genoa, Italy, on November 7, 1872, carrying Captain Benjamin S. Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and crew members. After facing harsh storms and dangerous waters for 2 weeks, the ship reached the Azores. Due to uncertain weather conditions, Captain Briggs anchored the ship off Staten Island, during which Sarah sent a final letter to her mother-in-law. Eventually, the weather improved, and the ship departed for the Atlantic. At the same time, the Canadian Brigantine de Gratia was nearby in Hoboken, New Jersey, preparing for its own journey to Genoa via Gibraltar, with Captain David Morehouse and first mate Oliver Deveau, both skilled sailors from Nova Scotia. Captain Briggs recorded the challenging journey in his journal, but intriguingly, the log ended suddenly on November 25, 1872, at 5 a.m. The previous night, the ship faced rough seas and strong winds, but by the morning, they had overcome these challenges, with Santa Maria Island in view, indicating all was well. According to the last log entry, dated November 25th, the Mary Celeste was about 6 nautical miles from the Azores. 10 days later, the British brig de Gratia spotted the vessel. Captain Morehouse appeared on the deck of de Gratia when the helmsman reported an approaching vessel about 6 miles away, moving in an unstable manner. The odd positioning of its sails raised suspicions, leading Morehouse to believe that something was amiss. As the vessel drew nearer, no one was seen on its deck, and it didn't respond to signals. To investigate, Morehouse sent Deveau and second mate John Wright in a boat from de Gratia. Upon reaching the vessel, they identified it as the Mary Celeste from the name on the stern. Climbing aboard, they discovered that the ship was completely deserted. Although there was some water in the hold, it wasn't enough to cause alarm, and the ship was still in good condition. The cargo and personal belongings remained mostly undisturbed, except for a missing longboat, suggesting a swift and mysterious abandonment. The crew of de Gratia sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, covering a distance of around 800 miles. British authorities conducted an investigation, but found no evidence of foul play. The ship's sails were partially set and in poor condition, with some missing altogether, and the rigging was damaged, with loose ropes hanging over the sides. While the main hatch cover was secure, the fore and lazarette hatches were open, and their covers were on the deck nearby. The ship's single lifeboat, a small yawl, appeared to have been stowed across the main hatch, but it was now missing. The ship's compass binnacle had shifted from its place, and its glass cover was broken. Inside the cabin, Deveau found signs of water entry through doorways and skylights, causing a wet and untidy environment. However, the overall condition was reasonable. Personal belongings were scattered about Captain Briggs's cabin, including a sheathed sword under the bed. However, most of the ship's papers and the captain's navigational instruments were missing. The galley equipment was neatly stowed away, and although no food was being prepared, there were sufficient provisions in storage. No obvious signs of fire or violence were present, indicating an orderly departure from the ship, possibly using the missing lifeboat. This event has become one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history. Why would an experienced captain like Briggs, or his crew, abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship? Various theories have emerged over the years, ranging from mutiny and pirate attacks to wild explanations involving giant octopuses or sea monsters. More scientifically minded theories suggest an explosion caused by fumes from the 1,700 barrels of crude alcohol in the ship's hold. Now that you know what happened, let's have a quick break so you can think of how the Mary Celeste became deserted. And while you're at it, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. Going back, here are the theories on what happened to the passengers and crew of the Mary Celeste. The salvage court hearings commenced in Gibraltar on December 17, 1872, and were presided over by Sir James Cochrane, the Chief Justice of Gibraltar. Frederick Solly Flood, who served as the Attorney General of Gibraltar and also held the positions of Advocate General and Proctor for the Queen in her Office of Admiralty, conducted the hearings. On December 23rd, Flood ordered an examination of the Mary Celeste, which was carried out by John Austin, surveyor of shipping, assisted by a diver named Ricardo Portunato. During the examination, Austin observed cuts on both sides of the ship's bow, seemingly caused by a sharp instrument, and detected possible traces of blood on the captain's sword. He highlighted in his report that the ship did not appear to have encountered severe weather conditions, as evidenced by a vial of sewing machine oil found upright in place. Moreover, they discovered stains on one of the ship's rails that seemed to be blood, and a deep mark possibly made by an axe. These findings strengthened Flood's suspicion that the mystery involved human wrongdoing rather than a natural disaster. On January 22, 1873, he sent the reports, along with his own conclusion that the crew had accessed the alcohol and murdered the Briggs family and the ship's officers during a drunken frenzy, to the Board of Trade in London. Despite Flood's theories, there was no concrete evidence to support them, leading him to reluctantly release the Mary Celeste from the court's jurisdiction on February 25th. Although the evidence in Gibraltar failed to substantiate Flood's notions of murder and conspiracy, suspicions of foul play persisted. Some newspaper reports briefly speculated about insurance fraud by Winchester, suggesting that the ship had been heavily overinsured. However, Winchester was able to refute these allegations, and the insurance companies that issued the policies did not conduct any inquiries. Another theory proposes that Briggs and Morehouse might have been involved in a conspiracy to share the salvage proceeds. Commentators point to the alleged friendship between the two captains as a plausible basis for such a plan. However, skeptics argue that if they were planning such a scheme, they would not have created such an attention-grabbing mystery. Furthermore, the question remains as to why Briggs left his son Arthur behind if he intended to disappear permanently. Various stories about sea monsters, water spouts, and extraterrestrial abduction became associated with the missing crew of the Mary Celeste. However, none of these theories were supported by any evidence. Among the more plausible explanations was the idea that vapors from the alcohol cargo caused the hatch cover to blow off, leading the crew to fear fire and abandon the ship. Nevertheless, this theory was challenged as the hatch cover was found securely fastened, leaving no satisfactory explanation. In 1913, the Strand magazine published an alleged survivor's account by someone named Abel Fosdick, who claimed to be the steward of the Mary Celeste. According to this version, the crew had gathered on a temporary swimming platform to watch a swimming contest, which suddenly collapsed, resulting in the drowning or consumption by sharks of all crew members except Fosdick. However, this account contains several mistakes and discrepancies, making it less credible. In the 1920s, a literary hoax perpetrated by Irish writer Lawrence J. Keating further added to the intrigue. Presented as a survivor's story from one John Pemberton, the hoax involved a complex tale of murder, madness, and collusion with the De Gratia. Although it contained basic errors and misnamed key personnel, the story was so well crafted that some were convinced of its authenticity. The New York Herald Tribune, for instance, considered it to be true beyond dispute. However, the hoax was eventually exposed as an impudent trick by a man with a vivid imagination. Although considered ill-fated, the Mary Celeste continued to be operational and changed hands several times until Captain G.C. Parker became its owner. Throughout the years, the tale of the ill-fated crew aboard the Mary Celeste has been recounted in various forms, including books, documentaries, radio, television, and movies. However, surprisingly, the story is seldom discussed in Nova Scotia. Roger Marsters, the curator of marine history for the Nova Scotia Museum, reveals that despite numerous inquiries about the Titanic, he has not been asked about the Mary Celeste during his 8 years at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. But what do you think is the most plausible explanation for the crew and passengers of the Mary Celeste's disappearance without a trace? Whichever you choose, the case runs as cold as it did before, and we might never find out what happened to the people on board who vanished. And that's it for today's video. We have so much more in store for you, so subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Also, don't forget to give this video a like. Thank you for watching.